Hi, my name is Janmijay and this is day 23rd of my communication practice, and I'm reading this book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. And during these 22 days I was going through this book, and the part A, which is basically author's experience in the concentration camp. And those who don't know what concentration camp was, so basically in Nazi Germany, Jews were being persecuted, and there were certain camp meant for them that were created to prison, to keep in prison the Jews folks of the Germany and the nearby area. The author was basically based in Austria, Vienna, and he was psychiatrist by training, and he was there. So he's talking about his experience in the concentration camp from a inmate perspective, which we cannot understand by as an outsider. And throughout the book he talks about the experiences he had and how the stressors from the camp was changing people, and he was talking about a lot of things. And in the second part, based on his experiences, he has already developed a theory which was called logotherapy. It's a thesis that was written to understand human psyche. I am not sure about what logotherapy is, but we'll get to know once we reach there. And this is meant to be a 30-day series, but I'm sure this will take 3-4 more days to complete. And right now I'm at page 84, and in total book is about 150 pages, odd pages, right? And we have talked about the journey from the initial incarceration to how many phases a prisoner go through. We learned about each of them, and now I'll start reading. And let's start. Those who know how close the connection is between state of mind of man, his courage and hope, or lack of them, and the state of immunity of his body will understand that the sudden loss of hope and courage can have a deadly effect. The ultimate cause of my friend's death was that and the expected liberation did not come, and he was severely disappointed. This suddenly lowered his body's resistance against the latent typhus infection. His faith in the future and his will to live had become paralyzed, and his body fell victim to illness, and thus the voice of his dream was right after all. The observations of his one case and the conclusion drawn from them are in accordance with something that was drawn to my attention by the chief doctor of our concentration camp. The death rate in the week between Christmas 1944 and the New Year's 1945 increased in camp beyond all previous experience. In his opinion, the explanation for this increase did not lie in the harder working condition or the deterioration of our food supplies or in change of weather or new epidemics. It was simply that the majority of the prisoners had lived in the naive hope that they would be home again by Christmas. As the time grew near and there was no encouraging news, the prisoners lost courage and disappointment overcame them. This had a dangerous influence on their powers of resistance, and a great number of them died. As we said before, any attempt to restore a man's inner strength in the camp had first to succeed in showing him some future goal. Nietzsche's words, "He who has a why to live for beer or with almost any how," could be the guiding motto for all psychotherapeutic and psychohygienic efforts regarding prisoners. Whenever there was an opportunity for it, one had to give them a why, an aim for their lives, in order to strengthen them to bear the terrible how of their existence. Woe to them who saw no more sense in his life, no aim, no purpose, and therefore no point in carrying on. He was soon lost. The typical reply with which such a man rejected all encouraging arguments was, "I have nothing to expect from life anymore." What sort of answer one can give to that? So the author basically drew his inspiration, or let's say his theories, from the words of Nietzsche, that if a person can survive why, a will to live, then only he can survive anyhow. And the same sort of observation was given by the chief doctor at the camp. So here you can understand the psyche of the folks who lost all their will to live, and therefore the inner resistance to the outward stressors became low, and soon their body fell prey to the illness, and something happened. And it was more so in the year from 1945 end towards the next year's Christmas, and a lot of people who were incarcerated there died, and the dying rate was faster during those periods, because folks were thinking that they will be free because it was end of the war, and there was no encouraging news, and that led to the disappointment, and their expectations were shattered, and that is why their will to live actually evaporated. So that is what happened. What was really needed was a fundamental change in our attitude towards life. We had to learn ourselves, and furthermore, we had to teach the despairing men that it did not really matter what we expected from life, but rather what life expected from us. We needed to stop asking about the meaning of life, and instead to think of ourselves as those who were questioned by life daily and hourly. Our answers must consist not in talk and meditation, but in right action and in right conduct. Life ultimately means taking the responsibility to find the right answer to its problems and to fulfill the task which it constantly sets for each individual. So I'll just close the conversation today, because I am right now at a different place, and I'm thinking that not to make longer video today, but you can understand the correlation between these deaths that were happening at the later parts of the incarceration, because the will was broken by this atmosphere, the surroundings of the camp life, and you can understand. And the author was also basically, he wanted to just like uh, be away from his existence, from his conscience. He was away from what he was facing right now, and he was thinking that he's at some other place, thinking about the situation where he was in, and he was talking to an audience. And that alone thought process of doing that separated him from all his sufferings. And that is how you can think about, how we can reduce our sufferings, just to detach ourselves from our inner self for some time, and just think of all our sufferings from an outsider perspective, and that alone gives a lot of comfort to your mind. It gives us a peace of mind. So that is how you can actually be thinking about when you are in a state where you think there is no point of return, there is no joy in life. So probably that sort of thing give you encouragement. And this was day 23rd of my communication practice, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye bye.